to another episode of Farewell Evangelion. My name is Keith Ramsey, and as always I am joined by Peter Akerley.
Hello!
Who is going through for his first time as I go through for my last. Today we watched episode 20 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, of the Shapes of Hearts and Humans. Shinji becomes trapped inside his EVA after achieving an unheard of synchronization rate. Nerve rushes to salvage him. This episode first released on February 14th, 1996.
Alright, so, predictions. Not super far off, because part of my prediction was that Shinji was somehow trapped inside of the EVA and he could not get separated while it was awoken.
It was a bit more literal than you expected.
A little bit more literal than I expected. I also predicted that Nerv would come to the conclusion that they have to kill Shinji in order to separate him from the Angel, or not the Angel, the Evangelion, which was not entirely accurate. However, based on the attempts they took to get Shinji out of the Evangelion, it seems like if he had have died, they would have been like, alright, cool, well, the Evangelion's still usable, so...
Well, not exactly, because EVA 1 has shown that it does not like anyone but Shinji now.
That is true. So, who knows for sure, but their plans almost did get Shinji killed anyway, so I'm giving myself pretty good marks on my prediction.
Yeah, the whole concept is his body kind of liquefied into the LCL, and they were trying to reform him and then reattach his ego to the body.
Yeah.
So as long as they kept everything inside the entry plug, hypothetically they could bring Shinji back.
Yeah. His mind was floating around in the LCL goop and his body had been fully liquefied, so they had to re-solidify his body and then make his mind go back inside the body.
Yeah, so this episode we kind of get two different stories going at the same time. It's Misato and Nerve trying to find and recover Shinji. Well, we got the Shinji perspective of the story, which is him kind of traveling through memories and thoughts.
Yeah. Lots of interesting stuff, but not a huge amount to talk about. So a couple things. Fuck it, that was going to be a question, but I might as well share it at this point because it's just a theory I have. So one of the things we see is we see Shinji recognize his mother while inside of the thing.
Yeah, this is the second time he's mentioned that it smells like her.
Yeah, and he gets visions of her memories. They're clearly not his memories, because some of them take place even before he's born, when his mother and Gendo are discussing what they're going to name their child when it's born, depending on whether it's a male or a female.
Yeah. And then we get the one of him being an infant breastfeeding.
Yeah, he was born into a post-Second Impact world,
yeah.
And is that even possibly a positive thing for him? So I'm now fully convinced that Yui is inside of the Evangelion Unit 1 somehow, although I have a new theory based on some other details that came out. So it's not that the Evangelion was made out of Yui in any way, shape, or form. That's a ridiculous theory. I was crazy whenever I suggested that. However, one detail we got earlier on in the episode from Ritsuko is that someone has been lost inside an Evangelion before in the past, and they tried to bring them out, and they failed.
10 years ago.
10 years ago. I am fully fucking convinced that was Shinji's mother who was inside the Evangelion and had her soul lost inside of it. And that's why he senses her whenever he's inside it and has the recognition of her. It's because her soul is still inside the Evangelion from the last time and they weren't able to properly pull her out. And I have a side theory for this, because when they were suggesting names for the baby, they suggested they would call it Shinji if it was a boy and Rei if it was a girl. I'm now convinced that it didn't fully fail. They pulled something out and made a body. They just didn't manage to pull her soul out and put it inside the body. So I think Rei is actually, I guess, a clone of Shinji's mom or something like that. I don't know the exact logic behind it. I don't know why she doesn't have the Ikari last name. Maybe Gendo wanted to hide the fact that this was his cloned dead wife. But that is the theory I'm going with based on the events of this episode. Rei is Shinji's mom's clone. And Shinji's mom's soul is still inside of Unit 1. And that specifically leads back to why, when Ritsuko and Gendo were talking a while back, and they had the line of, specifically, Rei and Shinji would be very upset if they found out the secret behind the Evangelion. It's because it's one of their prior forms / mother, so, yeah, that's the theory I'm going with now.
I mean, the grounds for that is we do know that it happened 10 years ago, and it failed. And we also know that, actually, another revelation for this one that you didn't mention was Shinji remembers seeing the Evangelion before the first time he saw it in episode 1.
Yeah, before he ran away when he was a child. Also, this could be why Rei is such a big focus of the Human Instrumentality Project or something like that, because they have been specifically studying her DNA and all that stuff. So I guess that wouldn't make sense if she was a clone, but if she was somehow birthed from being trying to pull a human out of LCL liquefaction, I can see why that would make her the object of intense study for the Human Instrumentality Project. So fully on board with this theory I have now.
Fair.
This is theory 2. So theory 1 is still angel number 2 was this Lilith being, and that they're underneath Narrabage. Although at this point they've kind of just confirmed that the angels are trying to break in because they want to get to Adam, but they might still be hiding the Lilith reveal that Lilith is under HQ as well. Or Unit 1 is made of Lilith. I don't know. Something's going on there. We'll get to it with time.
Well, Ritsuko has already mentioned that Evas are byproducts of Adam.
Yeah, byproducts of Adam. So I'm convinced. Theory 1 still Lilith is somehow involved in this. Theory 2 is Rei is Shinji's mom.
I mean, if anything, the fact that the Evas are called that and they're byproducts of Adam only strengthens your theory that there's an angel called Lilith, considering Eve. Yeah. They're created from Adam.
Yeah, it's true. So yes, those are my 2 theories. Those are the ones I'm really waiting to get fucking confirmed for me.
Yeah.
Alright.
So a lot of this episode is a lot of, like, theory and conjectural stuff while we're cutting between just, how many days it's been. Shinji was in there for 31 days.
Yeah, he was in liquid form for a month. Over the course of this month, he was essentially just watching a fucking slideshow on the fastest speed on repeat of all of the people he knows himself from a third-person perspective, which was kind of neat. And then just different flashes of the angels he's fought, and him, like, reasoning with himself as to why he fights angels. And it was kind of just really fucking sad, because it was him coming to the conclusion of they're attacking us, so we have to fight them to defend ourselves. We're not attacking them, we're not the aggressors. And then it was, I have never known kindness in my life, and the one time I've known kindness was people telling me I did a good job fighting the angels, so I continue to pilot Evas in order to get that recognition, but it's not enough to pilot the Evas, I also need to fight the angels, and it's not enough to fight the angels, I need to win and kill the angels in order to just get a attaboy from other people. That's the extent of the kindness he receives, and this is what he's putting himself through to receive that kindness.
I mean, we kind of get the same thing from Asuka, though, with what we find out about her, where she's like, she's doing it for the recognition, she needs to be recognized, and we see not being recognized or not being number one takes a heavy toll on her, because her big concern when we see her in this episode is not that, I almost died, it was, god damn it, Shinji showed me up again.
Yeah, Shinji's the one who saved the day once again.
Yeah. And not even like, is he gonna be okay? It's like, that son of a bitch.
Yeah, that fucking asshole there with his whole, killing an angel and saving everyone's lives. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
If I fail, everyone should fail. The world should end.
It's like a reverse Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
It's not enough that I failed, everyone else needs to fail too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get a bunch of that technical stuff, lore dumps, backstory, and then the big crossover, well, not crossover, but after Shinji gets pulled out of it, we get another scene with Morichiri Misato and Ritsuko. And it seems they're trying to repair the relationship, or at least Ritsuko is a little bit, because like, come on, let's go get a drink. We haven't done that well. Like, celebrate. She's like, nah, I'm busy. The busy was Kaji.
Yeah, and Ritsuko fully throwing shade at this point of like, wow, really? The moment Shinji's safe, you run off to go have unprotected sex with fucking Kaji, of course.
Yeah, there was a condom wrapper on that table post.
Fair, sure.
But Ritsuko even mentions, like, I'm one to talk, though.
Yeah, so clearly she's got something going on with her in the background. Presumably also with Kaji. I assume he can sleep with 2 women at the same time in different parts of the city. I would not put it past his skills in the slightest.
You see, even though Kaji does all this flirting, I still get, like, it's still a very strong vibe that he's, like, only ever interested in Misato.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, Misato's even, like, half of the reason I'm having this rendezvous with you is just because I want you to give me the information.
Yeah, you're a super spy extraordinaire, I'm trying to fuck information out of you. Which, he gives her something, and it's apparently the first gift he's given her in a very long time, and the last gift he'll ever give her, so hopefully it's information.
Another interesting thing, though, at the beginning here, is the fact that the episode also opens up with Kaji just hanging out with Gendo and Fuyutsuki. Yeah, after being kicked out of Narb HQ for spying, he's now hanging out in fucking Gendo's private quarters, just, like, having a conversation like, Sele's gonna be pissed! You think maybe Kaji just is like amazing at getting inside of NeuroHQ that they can't keep him out, and at this point they're not even trying anymore. It's like, you're not allowed to be in here.
Yeah.
Find the earpiece and leave.
They've revoked his codes. His codes don't work anymore. He's using anyone else's codes because he has access to all of them.
He seduced even the security system of Nerve.
Yeah, he didn't seduce a specific person. He seduced the concept of security and got all of the codes.
I mean, the Magi system is based off of 3 versions of Ritsuko's mother.
And one of them is her version as a woman, and that version as a woman is clearly very interested in Kaji. Fuck.
So Kaji's seduced 3 supercomputers.
Yep. Would not put it past Kaji.
Yep.
All in the name of spying, of course.
Of course, nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, we get a lot of interesting ideas that come up with Shinji and his self-realization inside the liquid, the LCL.
Yep.
And the interesting thing here too is it's like even whatever because whatever's in the EVA is communicating to him. He's not when we see the visions of Asuka, Misato, Rei, all talking to him. It's not them or a version of them.
It's clearly a different version that's trying to have a conversation with Shinji itself.
Yeah, and I think this is one of the things that the series tries to do of showing consistency and letting you know things are going on without directly telling you. And that is every time Shinji or anyone is really having a conversation that's not really just with themselves but with something else, it's always on that train card.
Yeah, and it always seems to have a slightly deeper, more ominous voice than Rei or Asuka normally has.
Yeah.
There was that one conversation that they had in an elevator. It wasn't on the train card, so there was a little bit of a twist here.
Yeah. But when it's a direct confrontation and not pretty much if it's a flashback, it's going to be that scene again.
Yeah.
But if it's something directly talking to him as new context, it's usually on the train. I guess it doesn't just apply to Shinji. Anytime someone is having something like this.
Including when Toji's having a dream about Shinji. That might have just been Shinji subconscious pulling them into a train.
He was nearby.
Yeah. He was like, oh, you're going to have a fucking expositional dream or narrative story?
Not without me there.
Not without me, and it's not happening off of this fucking train.
Oh no, Shinji's the one who made sure it was on the train. Toji just snuck in.
That's fair.
Because Toji, in that scene, Toji was even like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Is that Rei and Shinji?
Why am I here for this? But then again, as soon as he became an EVA pilot, he became very wise, so, of course, as a wise person, he needs to know information he shouldn't normally know.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would say there's a lot that happened, but it's not a lot to talk about because it is a lot of these just, strange conversations that he has with what I'm now convinced is his mother in EVA form.
That's fair.
Her soul is still trapped inside the EVA. Having conversations with Shinji whenever he's... But that conversation was a lot of Rei being like, yeah, so you don't get any affection from other humans, right? Cool! And that feels like a weird conversation for a mother to have.
Yeah. Well, it's also, there's a lot of psychological aspect stuff and the idea that Shinji can't create something in his mind that he doesn't already have an awareness of, and things will manifest in ways that make sense for him.
Yeah.
So, for example, the whole conversation of become one with me has very sexual tones to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's literally the EVA saying, oh, you want to be a part of me.
Yeah. The EVA is trying to convince him to merge with the EVA, much like his mother did in the past. I am now convinced. Yes.
Yeah. So you have to kind of look at things from alternative angles that make sense for how Shinji would contextualize something, as opposed to the actual metaphysical meaning of it.
It wasn't the angel First of all, it very clearly wasn't Misato, Asuka, and Rei all asking Shinji to have sex with him. That's clearly not what was actually happening. And it also wasn't...
Maybe Asuka.
Maybe just to get back at Kaji.
But wouldn't be direct about it.
Yeah. And maybe Rei, if she was specifically ordered to do that by someone else.
Would never happen.
Probably wouldn't happen. No one would give that order. But that's clearly not what's happening, and it's also clearly not the angel asking to have sex with Shinji either.
Although,
those forms.
We did have the return of Chad Shinji, and as we know, he enters all scenes dick first.
He does.
So it might have been.
That's true. It might have been. But the most logical explanation is it was literally just the EVA being like, yo, fully accept this merger that we have started. Reject the outside world trying to put you back in human form.
Reject humanity. There's only Eva.
Yeah, reject humanity, return to Eva. Or whatever else one might return to in these trying times.
Well, they also mentioned early on that inside the the tube, the LCL is more resembling of like ancient like seawater.
Yeah, the primordial soup, as they call it, from which all life spawns.
Yeah.
I feel a new theory coming up. The Avas are responsible. Well, not the Avas, obviously not the Avas, but I feel like Adam and Lilith, in particular, probably are responsible for all life on Earth, including the humans themselves. That's my new theory. But fuck it, that doesn't need to be addressed right now. That's just talking about primordial soup and from which all life spawned. I think that's what's happening, and that's why they call Adam the first man, even if he's not a human. He's an angel. He still is from what life gave. That's how life works, right? Sure.
Maybe.
Cool. I don't know. That theory I'm less in love with as the first two theories.
That's fair. The one other scene I want to talk about for this episode too, just before we move on to anything else, is the episode where Shinji comes back.
Yes.
So in that one, he hears people calling out to him as they try to activate like whatever it is, shockwaves, sound waves, frequencies.
Yep.
A bunch of science talk to reform him.
Yep.
And when this is all going on, he hears the voices and he rejects them. And then ultimately, because it just, the rejection, I guess, also opens up the entry plug, just spilling all of Shinji all over the floor.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's it. Shinji can't be brought back. There's no way we're getting all of that back in the tube.
Yeah, of course. Shinji's dead.
So Misato runs out, grabs his plug suit, and it's like, get back, Shinji. And then Shinji recognizes the smell of Misato, which kind of pulls him back to reality. He notices a few other things, but ultimately it's that trigger from Misato entering the room and kind of getting all in the LCL that kind of revives him. But he just kind of like falls nowhere near the LCL as well.
Yeah, he just kind of like collapses out of the entry plug itself.
Well, no, he actually lands next to what looks like the angel cord.
Oh, okay. I messed with that. Also, fun fact, it shows Misato holding the entry plug suit. And yet, I'm like 95% sure when he got into that entry plug, he was wearing like a schoolgoer uniform.
So, a little fun fact for you here at the beginning, before we get to your questions. He definitely was not wearing the entry plug suit. The plug suit, so, there's a bit of a story to this, but in the original storyboards, there was no plug suit.
Okay.
Because Shinji was in his normal clothes when he was there, and the idea was everything was just absorbed.
Yep.
But, at some point during production, they drew the plug suit in there. But it wasn't caught correctly, so the lines also never mentioned the plug suit.
Of course.
And it was supposed to be just Misato running in and, like, yelling into the entry plug, give Shinji back, blah, 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 and stuff. But, in the redubbings of it, in order to address it, they added a little extra line, which you probably also caught, which was Shinji's subconscious created a facsimile of his plug suit.
Yeah, I caught that. And I was just like, that's very dumb, so I'm moving past it.
That was added to address the most blatant, like, continuity error flub in the series.
Fair enough. Yeah, that was kind of needed. It was pretty egregious if they didn't have that line.
Yeah. So it got added between during the production stage and just wasn't caught.
Fair enough. Alright. Shall we do questions?
Yeah, lay them on me.
Alright. Question the first.
No.
Okay.
No, go on.
Is Rei Shinji's mom's clone?
Definitely can't answer that one.
Was Shinji's mom an EVA test pilot in the past?
She was not a test pilot.
Was she inside of an EVA for one reason or another?
Can I answer that one? Saying she was in an EVA, I don't think I can answer.
Okay.
And that's because I don't think she was.
Oh, this isn't a question, but something I noticed during the episode. Shinji also completely changed his tune about Gendo and Yui, in that in prior episodes when Shinji had that first flashback where he was thinking about his mother, he had lines about how Gendo didn't kill his mother even though everyone believed he did.
Yeah.
Whereas this time, he straight up got really angry and punched the EVA control units, complaining about the fact that Gendo killed his mom. So at some point, Shinji changed his mind and came to the conclusion Gendo absolutely killed Yui.
Well, it also kind of feels like, he's in the plug, or in the entry plug, in these, like, psychological situations, he's remembering things, too.
Yeah, he's remembering things he perhaps didn't always remember, such as he's
Keeping in
seen
mind,
the EVA before.
Well, he's also 15.
Yeah.
Or 14. And a lot of the stuff that happened 10 years ago would have been when he was 4.
Yep. Fucking children. Anyways, yeah, those are my questions. Were my theories correct? We'll find out on a later episode, maybe.
Eventually, maybe.
Yeah.
So, for some fun facts there, I already kind of let you know the one about the entry plug suit being just a really bad miscite. So, an interesting thing we do get mentioned here is that the power source for Unit 1 is still completely unknown, because we did know it took the S2 engine into its physical form, but it keeps reactivating. But as Hyuga mentions, there is no chemical, nuclear, biological, or physical process indicating that it's turning on.
Yeah.
It just kind of activates.
So it has the S2 drive, so in theory it doesn't need to be plugged in to power itself.
But the S2 drive is also inert, as he mentions, but it's still powering on.
Yeah, so something weird's going on there.
Another thing, the salvage plan for Shinji is mentioned. It was in order to salvage someone else, but failed in some sort of test project from EVA's back about 10 years ago. So this is more of an interesting broadcasting fact. Remember that this show came out in the grand old year of 1996?
Yep.
There was a lot of problems with that final scene. Even
I
though there was
yeah.
nothing explicit in the scene.
It still would probably be questionable to release something like that at the time.
Yeah, so it got a lot of flack, which caused a lot of problems for the re-airing of the episode. A little to do with the fact with also the original airing of the episode. In fact, most of the comments at the time, like, it wasn't like the episode of like Shinji having all these like revelations. That wasn't what people were talking about. It was that last scene.
Of course, yeah. It was one of those things where even now, with nothing explicit, I was still like, oh, okay, so this was in a show in 1996. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, most people watching, you probably noticed this too, each episode kind of has 2 titles for each part. They kind of break it up. And the second title, Oral Stage, is actually a reference to Freud's theory of development.
Okay.
Yeah, so the Oral Stage is 1, so kind of... more and more references come to the fact of, like, child development and all that stuff with characters, which I guess makes sense.
Shinji is still a child. And we are aware of that fact.
And, to throw you a bit of a bone for one of your statement question theory things, it is heavily implied that Shinji is not just witnessing his memories when he's inside the EVA, because he straight up hears things he should have no idea of. And I guess that kind of goes into effect, also referencing back the fact that Toji, not in an EVA, was getting information through things that he was not present for.
Yeah.
Shinji complaining that he's never going to pilot an EVA again, and how he disagrees with his father. That conversation did not happen in that hospital room.
I'm still... Ray might have been berating Shinji.
But overall, what would you say is your stance on this episode?
Honestly, for a surprising lack of action for the series, I still think this episode was very solid and had a lot of compelling details that really drove the plot forward. So I'd say this was probably one of the more positive episodes of my heart.
Yeah, it's definitely a good episode. I remember a lot of details from it, going through it like multiple times. It's one I always know is coming up. Doesn't hit quite as good as the last episode, obviously, because again, that whole slowdown with Zuriel is just amazing. But yeah, it's definitely a really good and very important episode, as in it has a lot to do with the background lore stuff, even though a lot of people, especially depending on how you're watching the series, might not get into the background lore stuff. And that's what this episode is fully for, and giving a bunch of that information that you can watch the whole series and never really pick up on. And if you're looking for it, that's where you tend to pick it up, and it's one of those.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so with that, we will end today's episode. So if you'd like to follow the podcast, you can do so at all podcasting platforms as well as YouTube. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, any reviews, pass it on to your friends. All that does help. Of course, if you want to follow us in other methods, we have an Instagram page, Farewell Evangelion, on Instagram, where you can get information and photos that go up on a regular basis, kind of just explaining things as we go through the episodes, going up with them. We also have polls on the weekends. And if you have any questions, information, or just want to chat with us, you can send us an email at whatismypodcastabout@gmail.com, and those might get read out on the episode. And of course, as always, Peter, what can we expect next time on Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Alright, so Seeley is going to talk to their bell around Gendo's neck to figure out what's been going on, because clearly he hasn't been reporting in enough. And that bell is actually going to be Fuyutsuki. Is going to be revealed to be Gendo's man, or not Gendo, Seeley's man on the inside interrogating Gendo. And we're going to find out all about what Gendo's been doing behind the scenes all along. We're going to get answers, I promise.
Well, make sure to tune in next time where there'll be plenty of fan service.